Welcome to the O Studio podcast, where we delve into the art of feeling better. My name is Matty Lovell, and O Studio is a wellness franchise that's here to help you relax, recover, and improve your health and well-being. Today, we are joined by Matt Bateman. From his early days in the fitness world to founding the HIIT Squad, Matt has built more than just a training space. He's created community. In this episode, we dive into his journey, the importance of connection and community, the challenges he's faced, and how recovery and resilience continue to shape his work and life. Let's jump in.
Matt Bateman, welcome to the O Studio podcast.
Is that me?
It's so strange saying that name. For anyone that doesn't know, Matt Bateman is my father's name.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I'm asked, is Matt Bateman your brother? I'm like, no, it's my father. And he's like, oh, he's the man. I was like, he is the man. But then I realized very quickly, actually, they're talking about not my father, they're talking about you.
Yeah.
I feel like I've rolled with that a couple of times. People have been like, is Matt Bateman your brother? I'll say no, and then they assume he is, and I just go with it.
Yeah. And then my brother's called Sam Bateman, and they're like, how's Sam? And I'm like, what one?
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, that's it. My little brother is called Sam.
Yeah.
Just the Batemans. They're just
all the same names in different families.
And all just really good people. Just absolute legends.
I'm the only Bateman not here. I mean, you're Highness now, obviously. But even when I first met you, I knew Matt first, and I was like, I know you're related to Matt, and you're like, yeah, you just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, we are, right?
Yeah.
There is like
some distant relation there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Kind of related.
Yeah, kind of related.
Very similar stature and stuff as well. And, similar body styles.
It's only because I'm tall and I'm going to like open homes, and then I walk in, and then they're like, because they think I'm the rugby player because I'm real tall. I'm far from Tim actually. But anyway,
hilarious. Hey, look, we're really keen to delve into a couple of different things today, Matt. But I think to start with, it'll be really cool just to sort of frame your journey, sort of to where you've got today, because you had quite an interesting ride. You and I were at school together, actually, but then you sort of went into building, and do you want to fill that in, how we got from building to sort of where you are today?
Yeah. So, went to school, same age as Timmy, and then, I was at St. Bede's with you, Matty, and then, went through school, finished school, and then first year out of school got straight into my apprenticeship, and then was finished, wrapped up building when I was like 20-odd, and then, I just enjoyed building here in Christchurch, and that was sort of my journey and the way I was going. I didn't really see anything else. Like, I enjoyed that. And then, when I was 23, 24, I started focusing more on like rugby, and then that started to go quite well. And, I just dropped my hours and just focused more on rugby. So with building, and then I was kind of into that and enjoying that. And then I had a couple of injuries. So I did my ACL my first year. So lost that year of rugby, came back the next year, same position, same sort of timing, started the year. And then I did slip the disc in my back. And at that time, then I went straight off work, and I was like, what am I up to? Now I'm kind of like lost. That's what I'm doing. I can't train, can't play rugby, can't do building. So I was like, I don't even know what to do, And anyway, at that point in time, I was like, back then, this is talking like 2014, 2014, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I was just like browsing through Trade Me, and I saw this job over in the Pacific, and it was like, earn great money, come and work away. And I was like, I'm just going to try and like wing this. So it was like, I had to do a medical, and I still was off with this back injury, and I flew up to Auckland, and then I learned that the South Island medical records can't be accessed by the North Island. So I was like, this is perfect. So so I got this job working over in a little island called Nara in the Pacific. And I went over there, and that's working on the refugee camps of Australia. So we're classed as like fly in, fly out workers. So we weren't like aid workers or anything. We're on great money to be away, like close to like $5,000 a week. So it was pretty awesome money back then. And when I went away, we had a bit of like a bit of a lads culture, and it was just everyone was like around the window like a wet mess, drinking and that at night. And I was like, this is not really me. So I wanted to get into like training. Like I was obviously come from that background from rugby, and started training by myself at night time, and then 2 or 3 guys started joining me, and then 3 or 4 more, and by the end of 2.5 years, there was like 30 to 40 guys coming out with me every night, like Monday to Friday, and then on the weekend on a Saturday we'd go for a run. So when I was working away, we'd be away for like 4 to 6 weeks at a time, and then I started to like enjoy it, like training others, and I kind of got a bit lost. I was like, because most people that enjoy fitness, they enjoy fitness for themselves, but they don't actually enjoy helping other people. And that's kind of, I guess, like lots of people get caught up with that. They have this idea of training all day and being a trainer and just training all day, really, and then not training other people. And then, I started seeing guys start to like change and form great habits. And when I wanted to come home in 2016, that was like obviously the peak of the rebuild. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go back building. And I was like, I might look to study PT. And I was obviously doing what I was doing was, working really well, but I wasn't getting paid. And then when I came back in 2016, I was just like, I wanted to like do that. So I started studying just 2 days a week, which is classed as full time. And then on my 3 days off, I'd do contract building work. And then the gym I was training at said, hey, do you want to run some classes and sessions for us? And then like sports teams reached out. And then, yeah, basically by the end of the year, I was a trainer full time and I wasn't even qualified. So it kind of happened really naturally, but it was something I never really planned on, you know? And yeah, so for me, that kind of like just went from one thing to the other, and now we're in 2025 and the HIIT Squad's just turned 9, and the HIIT Squad was never ever meant to be a thing. Like when I was away, like we used to call it G Block 212, and that was like my room name where everyone used to meet every night that I was on the island. 6 p.m. we'd meet there and train, and then one day we were all joking, we were like, you know, tapping our mates on the shoulder and we're like, hey, we should call it the HIIT Squad. You know, and it became this little joking thing, and we had like label makers and we're putting stickers on each other's hard hats that said the HIIT Squad, and yeah, before you know it, we're here.
Honestly, like, what year was that you came into the Crusaders? Was it 2017?
Yeah, when Razor took over.
Yeah, 2017. I just remember, like, and you came in and you had your bucket hat and your HIIT Squad t-shirt, and it was like real cool training. It was like the first time I'd done that sort of like
body weight.
It was real body weight, like animal focused sort of, you know, frog squats and bear crawls and, you know, that sort of stuff, and it was real fun. Yeah, and no one had ever seen anything like it before either. Like, was that the style that you were doing over there? Or?
And because we were away, we had minimal equipment. So yeah, we started doing the body weight. It was called like zoo style training, and got into that. And the joy with doing like body weight like type training is that it's actually really, really challenging, but it's actually like less intimidating because, you know, if you go into a gym and everyone's picking up massive weights, you look around, you straight away, if Matty's picked up like massive weights and he's throwing them above his head, you'd be intimidated by that. Whereas if you walk in with your own body weight, everyone's just like, okay, we're all doing the same thing here. You know, we're all driving the same car effectively, and we're all working hard. And it was a great opportunity that year, and ended up taking the Crusaders like three or four times a week for pre-season and following around. And that actually used to start in like October. November. And we had there was all sorts of CrossFit games that you guys did once a week. And
I know. Yeah, and then also, what became like you coming in and doing stuff on site with us also became like actually the boys wanted to go and train at your facility as well, like later on down the track. Like you were sort of, I don't know, the type of personality and the style of trainings and stuff that you'd run was like people loved it, engaged in it, and obviously you sort of that's become like a core part of your business, I guess. It's like your style, building a community, something that's really fun and engaging. And I think I guess I was never like a big time rugby player or anything, but I always loved to work hard, and I knew that like I was never a strong guy in the gym. So like when I used to go there, the old long levers would never do well when you're doing like strength tests. So if I could do body weight, and then when I was younger, I was obviously like a massive, like I'm still the same height as I was when I was 14. I think we used to have the 5-year school photo, Matty? And when I was in year 10, I was like the tallest guy at St. Bede's. So like pretty funny. And then, but I was never strong or like really coordinated. So when I started to like find that, then I like really enjoyed that body weight style of training and realizing how challenging it can actually be.
Do you remember the first classes you ran at our club as well? Because the funny story was that like I remember you were coming back from overseas and you knew Sally, I think, more than me, and Matt reached out to Sally and was like, hey, like I'm coming back, like I learned this like training, like can I run a class at your gym? And I remember being like, oh, I went to school with him, like, yeah, we'll give it a go. And then, so we planned it like a few weeks out, and then it was like, I think it was on a Monday night, and you like sent Sally like a text on like Monday morning, and we're like, I've broken my leg, or done what's in your Achilles. I did my Achilles like on Saturday, like I'm in a moon boot, like I can't do it. And Sally was like, oh, okay, okay, any ideas? And I was like, not really. I'm really sorry. Then like you call back like 5 minutes later, we're like, bugger, I'll do it. I'm going to turn up. And I remember like it was the first time I'd seen you probably since school. And I looked into the classroom and you're doing bear crawls with like a big moon boot and stuff. And I was like, who is this guy?
Oh, that was quite funny. It was actually quite funny, because I started playing a couple of games for Sydney Div 2, and then I got dropped in a line out, rolled my ankle, and I was in like this moon boot. And then I started and I was obviously trying to do everything I could to like get momentum starting out. And then I think when it was even funnier was on like the Saturday, and I was running classes at the gym, and I introduced myself to this lady who'd come along to try out the class, and I'm like working there in this moon boot, and then I said, what do you do? And she's like, oh, I'm an ACC case manager. And I was like, one, I shouldn't be working, and two, I'm just going to pretend this conversation never happened.
Oh, I think it just shows like that's what you got to do at the start, right? You just got to do those things when you don't want to, and maybe even shouldn't.
Every opportunity. So
it's the grafting. I think the natural strengths, and it's definitely just from knowing you as a person, it's definitely the connection and the community that's been built around that. It can't be done if you don't have those in your core kind of repertoire. And I think that's the biggest thing with someone watching you graft and work hard. The community's built off obviously enjoying the training, but really respecting you as a person. And I definitely think everyone that I speak to about, that goes to the HIIT Squad or has been part of any of the bits that you've done, that's always a big part of it. Like I think of even just like within the rugby culture, like Crusaders definitely is that connection and that genuine care and the fun is such a big part of it. So it's so relatable.
Is that intentional? Like, is that just like an embodiment of you? Because I think that's really what we want to focus on today.
I think a bit of both, really. And like at the end of the day now, and like I know what you guys are like as well as like O Studio, but like I always tell our trainers that like when it comes to at the end of the day, fitness is just fitness, but it's like the experience you can have while doing it. And that's probably the biggest thing for me is that like, you can go into a burpee anywhere. But like it's how you can make that in a great experience. And like if you can walk away feeling better, not necessarily because you have people that come to the gym that aren't about actually doing the burpees and doing the whatever you do. They're actually about having that human connection. And we kind of touched on it before we had this conversation start. But like human connection is real, eh? Like it has to be like how great is it? Like, if we, high five, hug or whatever it may be, like that forms that connection. But if people can have an experience while they're doing what you offer, then that's what they want to have.
In this day and age, that's such a big part of it. Like with loneliness, people working in isolation or kind of moving through life by themselves, it can be just that moment in the day or the week that brings, a bit of joy with some other people, and it's a big part of it.
You talk about that, facilitating an experience that helps drive community or high fives and, sort of like that. Like what else do you do to drive community? Like what else do you think about? Like, and how much do you think about it?
Well, I think sometimes it kind of comes naturally to me, but that's probably because lots of the stuff we try and do isn't actually about like, it's not about like making money or whatever. It's just trying to like make people have a better experience and what we can do to make their experience better, and keeping people engaged is the biggest thing. And I think like if you don't have stuff like in plan or like how your programs and like classes run, and then that it can kind of go off. But the biggest thing I always tell our trainers, and I've spoken about it before and I've spoken to other people, is that like I got told the saying once, and it was like you must refresh every single membership every single day. And that's like, like when you say it, you must refresh every single member's membership every single day. Like that's key, because like someone's only like one bad experience away from leaving you. So like, if people come in and there's 30 people in a gym class, whatever it is, 20 people, and if I don't go around and engage with them before we start that class, and that person's like coming, they might live at home by themselves and they don't live with anyone, and then they leave not having spoken to anyone, like we haven't really done our job. But like how many times I can say, come on, good work, Soph, go Soph. Even if I say, good work, but I don't say Soph's name, like she's not going to feel accountable. Whereas if I can say Soph's name and I make that kind of my challenge to say people's name, if I'm down the other end of the room, I'm like, come on, Soph, she's going to look around, she'll be like, whoa, shit. She's going to feel like she's heard her name and she's going to feel valued. So the most times you can say someone's name, like for me, that's just like little things. But then it's like you feel straight away, you feel accountable. Whereas if like I'm going around the room going, good work, guys. It's like, okay, sweet, like that's all good, but like that's not to anyone. Come on, Timmy, work hard. You're like, oh wait, he just said my name.
It is. Right straight back into the whole community feel of it, doesn't it?
The thing I love about that is it's helping the individual. Because what that does is it means it's more meaningful to the individual. They get more out of it. They enjoy it more. They feel more connected. They take that externally into their own lives, and so they continue. They get real benefit. But also, from a business perspective, it helps the business too. You know what I mean? So it's like they're the same thing. If you genuinely care and you do a good job for your clients, for your community, everything else flows off the back of that.
100%. And that's like, sometimes now I'm like, it's quite hectic. Like we have stuff and I'm like, we do like coffee on Fridays, and then sometimes I'm like, we've got to clean up, but we can't get these people out of the gym. But then it's like hard because you want to create community, so like it's a good problem to have, because it become like positive cultures can become like really infectious, whereas a toxic culture people want to walk away, whereas it's like when it's a positive environment, you know, people will love it and then they'll want to come back, and it's like they might form connections or like friendships, and then, you know, Maddie, do you want to come to the gym? Sophie, do you want to come to the gym? And then, you know, it becomes this like whole domino thing. And I think the biggest thing now though, like going forward in the era we are, like people are time poor. You know, like gone are the days where people be like, hey Soph, let's go and walk Rapaki, and we're going to walk up there, which takes us an hour, and we're going to go and get coffee, you know, and then you don't even like leave sweaty or feeling like, you know, you've done something. Whereas if people can have 45 minutes, they rock up to the gym, they have that human connection first and foremost, then you get the workout in and you walk away feeling like great, you know, you're going to be like, cool, tick, 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 you know?
So true.
One of the interesting things about this though is like you can't fake it. Like you can't fake community, you know, like, and I was looking at the post of the Jog Squad the other night, and like there must have been 100 people there.
Yeah, it was,
you know, like it's crazy. And so like, and I think that's what makes it, like you're talking about it being sort of sticky from a business point of view, but it makes it so valuable because it's real as well.
Yeah.
Like how do you create community at scale? Because I think it's a challenge. It's like, I think, you know, it can be easy to do amongst a smaller group. You're talking about, you know, you've got one class and you're like, we've got to keep going. We've got a next class coming in. Like, I think that's kind of one of the key challenges that anyone in this sort of area has faced is not even this area, but like when they're trying to create a connection and community is like how it is genuine, real, but at large level, which you've been able to do really well.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, the gym stuff's good. Like, I really enjoy the gym stuff, and that happens really naturally, like to me, like in working and that. And then at the moment, we've just like flipped the roster, so I'm working in the evenings. And to be honest, I actually hate it, because I'm a morning person, and I love going in and like seeing like 3 classes back to back and lots of people. Whereas at night time, I walk in and I'm like, I'm like, it's not, you know, it's not my jam. I'm not used to it, and I'm not used to like, so at the moment I'm like, oh guys, and we had a like trainers meeting like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, guys, can anyone just like want to like swap shifts, because I'm like, I want to be back on the morning roster. So and then one of the girls as well on Monday morning, and I got to work Monday morning. I was just like frothing because I was like so excited to be back in there. But it's hard, like the Jog Squad especially has been really tough, and I reached out to you guys obviously because I'm a partner of the Jog Squad, and obviously running's becoming really, really big now, and I think, you know, for us, the Jog Squad, that's not about like making money or anything, but it's about trying to get people, one, running as a community and like you're running with others, but also like that. Yeah, as like we're obviously trying to run for the like Queenstown Marathon, but now we have all these people jumping on our program that aren't actually doing the Queenstown Marathon, but they want to be part of what we do. And when I reached out to all the partners for like season 7, which is leading into the Queenstown Marathon, I said, hey, look, our first 4 to 6 weeks are usually the quietest because it's still dark until daylight saving. And then last week we had our launch night and we had like 90 odd people there. And then last night was like week 2, officially week 2. We were meant to have an intro like 3 weeks ago, but it got rained off. And then last night it was like, oh my God, there's like 100 people booked in. And I was like, looked down at the app and I was like, oh shit, like what are we going to do? So we had like a strategy to like move everyone off in waves. But the hardest thing is like when you have that many people, the one-on-one time is minimal, but that's actually quite overwhelming. Like, to be honest, that's like a lot of people, and you can't actually process that going on but like in a class environment, you know, like you've got 30 people in a class, you've got 45 minutes with them. So you're actually one-on-one time. By the time you explain the workout, what you're doing, and get around the group is actually less than a minute per person. So like I'm actually like, people hate me because I'll have a convo and I'll go up to Timmy mid-class and I'll be like, how you going, Timmy, rah-de-rah? And then he's like, answer me back, and then I'll just walk off because I kind of like know that I can't have too long with him because then I get less time with someone else.
Yeah. Exactly.
So like it's kind of like, I'm probably pretty bad at that, but it's, you know.
You must remember some names.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with names, but then I had that concussion last year and it's kind of like throwing a real spanner in the works because I'll be in the supermarket and I look around, I'm like, how do I know that person? And I'm like looking and I'm like, where's it going to come from, you know? And then it might be like a day later, I'm like, oh, that person. I met them at Anytime Fitness 7 years ago, you know? Like, so it can be some things like that are like, but you learn a lot of names, but you feel like a school teacher on a night out because you go out and you're like looking around, there's like 20-year-olds that you're like, they come to the gym, you know?
Just like, maybe this is the wrong sort of question, but how many of us hear the word community talked about, you know, like and brands and businesses trying to create community, and like how do you create community? What would you say is actually community? You know, because what you're talking about is like just building connections with people. Like, how deep do people want to be? It seems to me like it's got to feel real easy. It can't be. It's not too heavy. It's not too deep. It's just. It seems quite like surface and fun and like. That's what I'd describe it as. Like, but you feel like you're part of something. The sort of unique sort of group. Like, what is it?
I don't know if this is a word. I'm gonna chuck it out there. Like commonality. I think when you've got something in common, like you think of like, you know, if you've got a kid at school that's a school community or
your
work community, the gym community, run community. I think it definitely just is having something in common. And I think as humans, we kind of crave to have support and things that we're caring about. So they can be tiny, can't they? I think, but the creation of community, I think, is important because we don't live in communities as much anymore. So I think the traditional sense of community, you think of like where we grew up, Hara was probably a population of, I don't know, a couple hundred max. That's our community, and that everything kind of centred around that. Your shop, your butcher, your bits and pieces. We don't live like that now.
I think though, like back in the day, and we were at rugby last week, so I've been helping out with like the Waitaha, and I was like, how did we actually used to communicate about doing things? Because like now, like straight away, it's like group chats, it's like WhatsApp, Facebook, it's all going off. Like, but you think like you used to text IOU to 468 to get $2 credit on your phone. Remember that? Remember? And you'd be like, hey Timmy, what's up? I've got unlimited text because my Vodafone hasn't ran out yet. Remember? It was like, but you like it was 20 cents to send a text message, so you had to be purposely like what you wanted to talk about in a text message. You actually had to think about.
You'd fill all of the 365 characters or something you say for 20 cents. That's so.
But, I think the other thing too, like in the health and wellness space, like where we both are, is that like it's a really positive environment. So that's what makes it like grow too, because people want to feel good. You know what I mean? Like if you think of like people talking about workplace problems and that, like, when we talk about things, it's about people like messaging about a membership at like 10 p.m. at night, and it's like that's our like the down part to our day. But I'm like, there's other people that like a builder might put 200 cubic concrete in the wrong place. Now that's a big problem, But we're like talking about like little things, and it's like actually nothing bad. And like I'm always like, then if I ever think like that, I'm like actually flip the mindset here, like. I'm so excited. Like today when I was like, I've got the podcast on, I was like, I'm pumped to go to this.
We're pumped to have you here.
Do you think like COVID helped drive the desire for community?
Yeah, I think that's really tough, eh? Like I think because we try to do a lot of online stuff with like lots of sports teams and that, and when that happened, I remember you guys are online too. But like as for me, it was like so hard, like trying to run a class, and I remember you're like trying to like like screaming into the TV, and then nothing comes back at you. You're like this is kind of random for me, and I was like, you're giving it your all, but you're getting nothing back, and like I think that really made people realise that like connection is really, really important. That actually having, you can have connection through something, but like we kind of talked about before is one-on-one, like face-to-face is the stuff that actually fills your cup, really.
And that emotional contagion, I think we refer to it as, it's like you pick up on other people's energy. So, and it's so hard to do when you're by yourself. Like you can to some extent, but it is so much more impactful if you're
because even like run clubs, right? Like you talk about connection and stuff. Like like that's a new phenomenon. If you talk about 5 years ago, like run clubs were an elite group of athletics people that were joining a run club, and now it's like a you've got 90 people showing up on a Tuesday night.
That's a massive one, is that a lot of people, that's from COVID, that flow-on effect now, because a lot of people, when COVID happened, they started doing running because that's all you could really do. And then like a year later, they're like, hey, I'm going to do a half marathon, but they didn't actually do like an actual event. They just wanted to run 21Ks. And then now they're like, hey, I want to do like, the Christchurch Marathon. So they've done that, and now they're like, hey, I want to go destination. So it's like Queenstown, Hawke's Bay. And now that's where it's like really, that's the flow-on effect from what that is. And I think like, when you said like 7 or 8 years ago, when we first started our original run club, that was before lockdown, and that was like quite weird because we were trying to start this like quite social run club, and it was like everyone was kind of like, oh, whatever, like why do I want to come running? Because it was like, people hated running. But now I'm like, people love running. But it's,
How many of the people running of those 90 would be listening to music?
Not many. Nah, not many. Only the few that might come by themselves. But not many at all.
So it's a real small amount.
Real small amount. I know that if people ran by themselves, they would run with headphones, and then, but lots of the time, majority of the time, it's not. But also, I think though, it's not actually about the running.
I get it. I get it.
I think that it's not about the running, because I'm like, how could you have close to 100 people come to run down Stanmore Road? It's not exactly prime real estate. But it's actually about the connection. It's the experience though. Like kind of what we touched on.
The experience. This is like, I reckon there's so many similarities to what we're trying to do here. Like if we think about the service offering that creates the most connection community, it's our communal sauna and plunge offering within all our studios, and they're actually really similar. I tried to sort of like step back and think like, what is actually making this such a good place to drive community, and it was a combination of a number of things. And I think run clubs have the same. So the first is that there's no technology.
Yeah.
Is that you're sort of in a room with no phone. Like usually if you're standing next to someone and that you don't really know, most people pull their phones out to keep themselves from having to engage.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
And so you're forced with no phone in a sauna and ice bath experience. Same with when you're running. You're not like scrolling your phone, you're running. So secondly, you're doing something hard together.
Yeah.
When you're doing something hard with someone, but this bond builds, Like when you're running with someone, like you're both battling a little bit. You feel like this connection. It's the same with the sauna. Like you're sitting in there, and you're like, it's going to go for 90 degrees. I'm like, I'm looking over. It's 9 minutes. I'm trying to go another 3. So you've got this shared connection through something hard.
Yeah.
Thirdly, there's the humour of the ice bath. It's like funny, like someone lasts 30 seconds, someone's in there for 2 minutes and they're trying to help each other out. You've got this dopamine being flooded through you, very similar to running.
Yeah.
You've got this sort of excitement and funny, someone's not very good, someone's helping them out. So you've got that layer and dopamine's flooding through you. And then lastly, it's like there's some sort of humility around it. You're not in your suit and tie or your flash rugby boots or your flash shoes or dressed up. You're sort of stripped back to who you are a little bit. You're just running clothes. Yeah. In a sauna, you're in your swimming togs. Everyone's sort of equal, you know. So it seems to me it's like the combination of those 3 things help foster connections, which drives community,
100%. And I think that's just like straight away, and then you feel like you've accomplished something, and then you're like, hey, and then like, when you sort of like, I guess form a memory, that's the like next thing you'll be like, hey, tell me, what about that time we did that sauna, and then you're like, what about the time we did that run, and that was like real hard, like that's straight away when you form that something, you've got that connection again.
Yeah, and it's almost as well like, because what we see in the sauna and the communal sauna offering is like really awesome conversations. Like people like open up and I'm guessing it's the same when you're running with someone. You sort of your focus is elsewhere, but you're sort of battling away. You sort of open up a little. You're
a bit vulnerable.
You're more yourself. You sort of the things, just sort of layers, sort of get peeled away. These sort of masks that we put on start getting peeled away. Like I don't know. I see it all the time, and it's like just trying to picture how you can create that, how you make that experience even better. Yeah.
It's like stripping back to basics, like the simplicity removes a lot of the complexities that you're bringing into other environments. It's like walking meetings, like if you're struggling to kind of, I don't know, talk to your teenager, if you go for a dog walk, next thing it's just like, they're just, because there's not that kind of eye to eye, there's not a real heaviness. It's such good stuff and it is so important. But for you and the staff, like how do you ensure, because obviously so much of this is your own personality and your own stuff, how do you bring staff on that journey? Like are you employing people that have those sort of natural tendencies or?
Well, we hang on to that at the start, and that's when we used to run classes for Maddie and that, and then you started getting me to run like 3 or 4 a week, And at the start, I used to be like, yep, I'll do it, like all the time. And then I started realizing, shit, I'm not going to be able to do this. I don't have the energy to be able to do this all day. And then now with the staff, pretty good. We have like a good like systems in place to like train everyone up as we go. But to be honest, it's hard because that energy that they want to bring is completely up to them. So you can only do what you can to like try and get them to replicate what you do. But lots of the trainers that like we've known have been like come on board as they've been previous members or whatever it may be. So they kind of know how we roll as well. And like lots of people say now about like the guys that work for us, they're like old rugby boys that they're like, it's like your mini-me's running around, but that's kind of what you want though, right? And I think the biggest thing last year, because I had that concussion and I was off work for some time, and like the staff really put their hand up, and to be honest, I think that was probably the best thing that's ever happened because I was actually forced to pull myself back. Whereas like if, you're trying to like take your hands off something, it's actually quite hard to do, whereas I actually couldn't really be there. So I was like trying to do as much as I could to like grow the staff and do what we could, but I wasn't actually physically there or when classes were on. But now, like I said to you, and kind of touched on about like the staff trying to refresh everyone's membership like every single day. And we spoke about it now, like the fitness is just fitness, but it's that experience you can create. And that's the biggest thing, like we drum home, like don't overcomplicate it. And I think when the staff then start to break that down and think about it, it's like, oh, actually really, we can actually make this so great. Because that's a positive environment. Like I'm not like saying, hey, do this. Like we have workouts up, but like put your spin on it. Like, how you explain it, how you want to do it and come across and, make people feel welcome is up to them.
The community depicts the culture of the team and the foundation of it. And so I think like what you talked about there, having existing members turn into trainers, is the culture is already set, you know, and I think that's what's really important about, when your internal culture probably feels similar to the greater culture. It's just magnifying it, and so people coming into your team, if they understand and buy into the culture, the result of that is that the community, there's a real connection with the community as well.
Yeah, and that's, I think the coolest thing is when that starts to happen and like trainers like give feedback that, members give feedback that the trainers are great, then it's like, it's quite like, oh, that's epic, you know? So.
It's crucial because it's kind of, I used to find this lots at the studio is, I almost felt like I needed to be there all the time because it's kind of like, embodiment of the face of the business, and I was so concerned for every interaction that it would just, you know, if it falls short, it's such a big deal. But you're exactly right. Feedback on good staff is just it's so important that there's a continual sort of level that people are delivering.
The thing I'd love to sort of ask about here is, because the thing that underpins all this for me is like a level of care. You know, a real level of care to do it well for your staff, for your team, for the community, for every individual. Like, that underpins it. If you didn't care, you wouldn't go to this level of detail and you wouldn't have the results that you've got. And so the trade-off there's always trade-offs with everything, you know, and so there's trade-offs with care. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I'd love to hear about some of those sort of challenges because, you know, like whether it be when you really invest in a member, and there's challenges that they're going through, how you manage those challenges. When you're really invested in caring about your team, and you see the challenges that they sort of go through. So, like, how do you navigate that balance between really caring and trying to be meaningful around something, but then
having a boundary in place?
Yeah,
I think it's quite hard, to be honest. And it's like, it's great because people do, you know, obviously open up to you all the time. But like I said, I'm probably a shocker at like sometimes like walking away mid-conversation, but knowing that like if people actually do need your help and care, and that they, you know, they're coming to you for help and advice. But I think the biggest thing is like, you know, when I like grew up, I moved around lots of schools and things, and I like kept chopping and changing. So when I was younger, like I was always having to make friends because I was always moving on like every 1 or 2 years. And when I went to St. Bede's, that was like my I think it was my 7th school I'd been to. So like I was rocking up having to like start from like scratch, you know, like making mates and starting again. And I think when you start to like with the gym stuff, it's like you've got people coming in from all walks of life, and there's people that are traveling, and if they come in and they start forming those connections with other people and everyone starts to like nurture each other, you know, because at the end of the day we all want to feel like loved. Realistically, like that's pretty much everyone's end goal. Like you know, everything else is irrelevant, like really. So you know, if you can create that and try and help foster that. But you do have issues like with people going on or whatever, and like with staff members, we try our best to support them. But lots of the time, it is actually really positive, you know. And I love getting around people when they're in that positive environment and seeing them succeed. And we've got people that have come to us and been with us since day one, you know, and like now they've been with us for like 9 years. So that's pretty cool. But you see like the walk of life of those people who've been on. Like there's people that have gone through meeting to then finding their first partner to then like getting married, having kids. And that's quite cool to like look back on. And then a guy in the gym and his wife, I can say obviously now, but it's because it's like public, but they've recently just got pregnant. But this is quite funny because they met at the gym. They actually, when he had no job, I actually helped find him a job. And he's still at that job now. And he said to me, he's like, look, you changed my life. You know, but I was like, but that's actually so funny because I never intended that to happen, and that's just happened organically. But it's because he's surrounded by those others in that community that are like willing to help. Do you know?
It's like knitting in. So I love this because what you're sort of saying is it doesn't just have to be. You don't have to be the only point of
other people doing it.
Other people doing it. It's building that community that actually looks after each other. And so that's massive.
I mean, some of the when you care a lot about customers and members and staff, the challenges are when things go on in their life that are outside of your control, you know. And I know we've had a couple of members that have passed away at our gym, and we've also had a member who lost their life in the March 19 mosque shooting. And we both shared a member who unfortunately, you know, took his own life. And that's hard when you care.
I think when you see people, that's when it's like real vulnerability, like because people are like, what just happened, you know, like, and when stuff like that with that person that like took their life, you know, they look around, they're like, I was just in the class with them last week, you know, and it's like that whole thing is like, you're all trying to understand it together, and it's like quite tough, but like, you know, we've done some fundraisers, and then we had like the unfortunate, like the passing of Mike Worley, the guy that he like choked, you know, and real sad with him. And like we helped get around and do like a couple of fundraisers for him, but like the community buy-in was massive because it's like, you know, people were experiencing this stuff together, and it's quite like tough to wrap your head around, you know, and you're like, but then that's when community really like puts their hand up.
And it gives them a bit of an outlet to do something positive together, eh?
Yeah.
It's crazy how stuff like that can shake. I mean, even just with Shane-O yesterday, you know, his Shane Christie, you know, like I'm seeing the ripple of what goes on in a community and in a rugby community in this instance. But it's like the best thing about a community, but also one of the biggest challenges when something like that goes on.
Yeah.
How do you not wear it? Like, because the thing about you is that it's like you care, but you take everything personally, not in a bad way, but like, you know, like when people talk about the HIIT Squad, they're talking about you a lot of the time, you know, and like your energy and it's like, but I'm sure there's times for yourself as well when you don't feel like putting on the hey, I'm the guy at the front of the room.
Yeah, I think when I used to go into work, I'm always like, you know, like whatever's going on, I must leave it outside. Like, and I go to work, but that's like, as soon as I walk in, I'm like, you know, flick the switch and I'm here for the people now. But then it's also like there's times when I am vulnerable, but I pick and choose, like I guess who I have that with, because I still have like that boundary, you know. And like, you know, a few years ago, like I obviously had some stuff going on in my own personal life, and I didn't really like, no one knew that because I never let on, but that was not me. But then I was getting my cup filled by just being around positive people, you know what I mean? But then people that did know that I had stuff going on were like really in my corner to support that. And that was quite like, I guess, made me understand community even more, and probably, to be honest, made it want me to like grow it more, because I was like, these people were actually like probably closer to them than my family, you know. And that's when I didn't really realise that at the time, and then I look back and I was like, wow, those people really like put their hand up to like help out, you know. And I think even guys like you, Matt, are like, hey Matt, let's catch up for a coffee, and it's like conversations like that. I'm like, that wouldn't have been possible, you know. But there is times when I'm like, hey, I just need to like, on Saturday, for example, I was like, we had an event at the gym all day. And we finished at like 11. We had free classes all morning, the run group on, all of this stuff. Then I went to like Waitaha, we had a game on. And then we had like, so we were there, and I finished there at like 6. And then all the boys are back from Japan. Yeah. So some of the rugby boys. And then we were like, hey, we'll catch up for Ben Fennell's 100th game. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even want to go, you know. Yeah. I was like, I just love to go to bed. I just like shattered. And then, and anyway, I didn't go home until midnight. But I was like, I couldn't tell you how many 100 people I saw on Saturday. But then I was like, just so grateful to like have those connections. But then there's times I just honestly love going to O and like having a float booked, and I walk in and I'm like, I'm so excited just to like switch off. And we kind of talked about that like in the like just before, saying that you don't have your phone out, technology, and you just escape. You know, just like, you know, it's like tools down, time to like recharge the batteries. And there's times when I'm like, that's what actually I enjoy too. So, but you can only give so much of yourself, and but I know that like balancing what I do is trying to be like, you know, as a key. But I know that if I've got like a massive day like Saturday, then like Sunday I'm like, hey, I'm just going to really take it easy today. Yeah.
It takes a lot of like self-awareness to realise what it is you need at the right moment, isn't it? Because it's, like you say, often getting energy from stuff that you're exhausting your own energy as well. You've got to make sure you top it up at some point.
You're clearly like you're one of the most positive people I've ever met. Hey, you know what I mean? So like, you mentioned some hard sort of moments that you've been through. Like, what are some of the harder things that you go through, and what is it? What do people see? Yeah. And because I was thinking, I can't even picture what it would be.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know. I think people that know me well would know that I'm off. You know, and I think like when I've had stuff, it's been like obviously like when I split up with my partner of some time, and like obviously there's a whole lot of stuff that happened there. But that was like, people kind of knew that I had stuff going on, but they were like kind of trying to gauge how I was, because I wasn't giving off much. Yeah. And if people didn't know me, they weren't asking me that. So then I'm like, they're trying to like, you know, gauge how I was. But because I didn't say much, it's quite hard. But I think for me, like I just, you know, I know when I need to like be like, oh, I need to breathe now or take a break. And I think that's probably like, you know, if I'm getting burnt out, I'd say. But with the staff now, we're pretty good in having that balance between like work and life. But yeah, I think I try not to be there all the time, because that's the thing, is like having that balance. I know if I can do 6 hours of like lots of people, I can be on, and then I'm like down to like, take the bulldog for a walk around the street, and then that can, keep me happy. But yeah, when there's been challenging moments, I think the people closest to me will know that like I'm not 100%. But
yeah. And what about the concussion? You've talked about it a few times. I know.
Yeah.
I had a similar. I don't think yours probably seemed worse than mine. I think like it's kind of one of those things that is hard to explain, and you're the center of that universe that you've sort of built.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you sort of had.
Well, that kind of like, it was really. Yeah, probably like you guys here, we're all getting older now. And we obviously sponsored Sydenham. Actually, this is another funny yarn. First year sponsoring Sydenham, we're paying quite big money to sponsor the premier sponsor. Sydenham in that year won the premier, like the premier club comp. Yeah. So we go down to the club rooms on this, so this story. I know this story, yeah. Yeah, and then there's like hundreds of people, and like the Div 1s arrive, and it's like 7 o'clock at night on the Sunday. They roll, and the club's like blazing, and all the boys got their jerseys on. They've had like HIIT Squad or Saunders building on the front. And then like they like welcome everyone, and then like the club captain gets up to talk, and he's like, welcome along to everyone coming along to celebrate the Div 1 winning the comp this year. And he's like, big shout out to Mark Saunders of Saunders Building and Timmy Bateman of the HIIT Squad. So I was like, I paid massive money for this sponsorship, and Tim Bateman's just got all the rap for it. I was like, I think I said to you.
So many messages, well done, mate.
So many messages, yeah. No, but when the concussion happened, I was obviously playing last year, or for 2 years, and the start of last year. And when it happened at training. I just got an elbow in the eye, and I didn't think much of it. And I knew straight away like there's like blood in that everywhere. And I ended up going straight to after hours Thursday night. And then the next day I had an event with Under Armour up in the Mount, and I flew up there and did this event. And we're up there, and I was like, shit, I had like stitches and everything, and I was on like antibiotics straight away. And then I didn't really realise, and this is just before Anzac Day, and it was like 2 weeks before Anzac Day, all the Anzac, around that time. And then on the Thursday, I was like, rang the coach. I was like, man, I can't even get out of bed. I was like, I actually think I'm getting real run down or sick. And so I said, hey, look, I'm not sure if I can come to training, so I'll come. So I came, and I did like everything but the contact stuff. And then I was like, I rang the doctor. I was like, hey, I think I've got like glandular fever. And so I was like, or I'm having a reaction to the antibiotics. I was like, one, I never take like antibiotics or any sort of like form of like that sort of drug. So I was like, I don't know if I'm having some reaction, but I feel real off. And they're like, no, come in. So I went into the doctor, and I was like, hey, look, I just feel real down. And then they're like, no, let us know what your symptoms are. So I kind of said, and they're like, oh, we think you could be having like a delayed concussion coming on. And then, I was like, kind of thing. Because obviously working for myself as such, I had no one to really report to, and I was still trying to rock up to take those shifts. And then I was in the gym, and like the loud music, obviously pumping, lots of people, lights like this. It's like, there was just so much going on, and I was still trying to work. And then I was like, hey, I can't, like, I'm battling here. I was like, having massive headaches and that. And then I was like, I need to go back to the doctor. So I kept going back, and then actually kind of touching on all this concussion stuff going on. It was pretty hectic, but the doctor said to me that like concussion's a myth. He's like, there's nothing we can do. Wow. And I was like there, and I was like,
kidding me?
No. And I was like real lost, because I was like, I'm real frustrated, because usually like if I'm sick and you have antibiotics and you don't usually take antibiotics, I'm usually like back on track within like 48 hours. And I was like, something's like real wrong here, because I'm like, I can't even focus, I can't train, and usually like I'm real motivated to train and that. So I was like, hang on, I don't really know what's going on. And then basically I ended up getting referred to the concussion clinic after like a month. And I went there, and then I did all the fitness tests, like a buffalo test and all of that stuff, and then got the all clear. And then I had like glasses and like all that kind of like carry on, all the eye tests and that. And then then I realised it was like getting real bad. I was like, shit. So then I had a occupational therapist come out to the gym, and I was still working. And this guy just walked in when a class was on, and we were talking in the foyer, and he's like, mate, you can't be here. He's like, look around you. It's like the music's just pumping. There's people everywhere. And he's like, nah, you need to be off work like straight away. He's like, 3 months. And I was like, how? Like, for me, I kind of like felt like I lost everything, because I was like, community and people was like what I'm about, And then, that made me really realise like, oh shit, I need to like really like dial it back. And that kind of was a big eye opener for me, eh? And then when I started having like ongoing things going on, then one of the Phil Fletcher, great sports doctor, he's a great man. I went in to see him several times, and he was just awesome. And he had like the whole different spin on it. And coming from like being a sports doctor, he's like, nah, we need to get you on the right people, like see the right people, and do all these tests like every single day. You're going to be doing tests, And so I started doing that, and that was just made me really understand like concussion, and kind of like what you said about Maddie, like if you haven't had a concussion, you don't really understand it. But then I had so much going on. And then Sammy said to me one day, she was like, oh, what did you do yesterday? And I was like, yesterday? I was like, I don't know. And then she's like, what about, can you tell me what I've done this week? And she was just having a conversation. And then I was like, I had no idea. And I was like, couldn't even tell her what I'd done like 3 days earlier. And I know when you are busy, like if I said to you guys now, like, what did you do yesterday? You probably think, shit, I don't know. But like, I was actually like, well, this is quite scary. And then I started realizing things like I couldn't find my wallet. And like that became a thing. I cancelled all my cards. And then I found it in the fridge between like 2 butterfly chickens. But I don't even know how I ended up in there. But you know, like your brain is just simply not connecting. And that was like me. I was like, whoa, this is like actually pretty scary. And then, yeah, I thought I kind of got the all clear at the end of last year. And then that was like, because I went on for some time, like there was like 6 months in now, and I was going back quite regularly. And then I did some work with Integrated Health. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're quite awesome over in Barrington Street. And then Brian Hale and then Belinda, which is his daughter, they were getting me to do all sorts of like tests on like balance and stuff. And it'd be quite tough like testing. And then I'd some days walk out and feel sick because they're doing all this like balance stuff. And they all thought that I was on track. And then in the start of the year, obviously quite busy, probably like all of us going into the start of like, you know, January, February. And then I was like, I actually can't remember anything. And it was like, all I could remember is everything up to the day I had the concussion in April last year. But we're like 8 months on, and like I went to Perth with my family, and that should be like, you know, I can remember like a big, you know, milestone or doing something great. But I couldn't tell you a thing about Perth. I still can't now. And I'm like, that made me really realise that like, oh, this is actually like so scary. And for me, like, lots of the things we do in life is actually formed on memories. And like when we talk about all the stuff we're all talking about now as previous memories, right? Like from you. But when you've got like no short-term memory, that's like actually really, really scary. And like, so for that kind of like really made me, and even still now, I've actually had more like memory issues, and I actually go to the doctor again on Friday. But like, it's actually like quite scary, but because I'm a busy person and my brain's always like doing this, like got so much going on, I simply like, it's quite hard for me to dial it back. And like we talked about the jog squad and that, and it's great that it's busy, but it's also like now I'm actually like, shit, like I've actually got to probably start to put my walls up a bit to be like, I need to have that boundary in place again, and not such a necessarily a boundary, but know how much I can, like where I put my energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about it a bit, but like stress and busyness on top of something is like fuel on the fire. Yeah, you know, it really is. And so like, because if you've got something sort of sitting there underlying, some sort of damage, you'd chuck lots of pressure on top of that. You know, even just trying to think about being, because I've been concussed a few times, but thinking about being in an environment where I'm like 30 people, lights, music, movement, like going on, it's just like, oh my gosh, and that's compounding on itself. Yeah, you can see how that would get out of control very quickly.
Oh, real. And yeah, now I'm like, it's made me go, hey, look, and then even like more so in the last couple of weeks, we've had lots going on, and like I don't really like to do things like not well, so I'm always like, I've got to make sure everything's right, that's going to go well. And like that's with like the run group launching and like all the stuff at the gym at the moment. So I've like kind of been guns blazing, trying to make sure we're on track, you know, to finish the year strong. And then I'm like, actually, I need to probably like dial it back a bit. And like I don't actually let on much to other people about that, but like the trainers and that know that I've kind of said, and we started doing some stuff with the trainers to like try and do like memory recall, and quite interesting. Like I sent them a whole lot of questions, and I'll be like, just ask me things when I'm working. So they'll come up and like one of the girls, Bella, she might be like, hey Matt, what did you do last Friday, or what was the workout we did on Tuesday? And it's like making me think without them actually making it an issue. Yeah, you know, so then it becomes quite natural.
Nice.
Yeah. So
yes, it's the head's a really interesting one. Like if you break your arm, you know, like you can look on an X-ray and you can be like, my arm is broken, and the doctor who's talking to you has seen 1,000 of these before, and they say, we're going to do this, this, and this, and in 6 weeks you'll come back and do this, and then you'll be fine. You may have some this, but and it's like gives you real certainty about what's going to happen. When it's your head, it's almost the opposite, right? You know, your first experience with a doctor, I can't even believe they said that. You know, like it's like you're like, what, am I going crazy?
100%. And that was like the biggest thing when that happened. And I was like, hey, this guy is like, I'm not getting anything out of him. And then it ended up in maybe like a month or two later, I ended up actually going to hospital, and I got like emergency scans done, and that was quite like a lot of pressure off, because I was like fearing for the worst, really, because I was like, am I going crazy here? You know, like I was like, this is not me, and I'm not being myself right now. And I was like, you know, I'm telling you, like, you know, we're like 4 months in at this time, and that was pretty scary. But then when in the start of the year, when I was kind of being released completely, and then I was like, actually, I've got like no recall like of anything. And I was like, that's actually like really scary. You know.
Well,
How often are you? Sorry, Maddie.
go for it.
How often are you managing to float when you're really busy? Like,
Oh, I know, probably like once a month at the moment, eh? And
you're almost like it's like upping it. Like,
Yeah.
but it's hard, isn't it, when you're busy? But because I think that whole sensory deprivation thing on a busy brain is so it makes sense, doesn't it?
But I think the other thing, which is I was thinking about this like 2 days ago, is like I need to go back for like floats more. But then I'm like my usual workload, right? I might say if I'm going to do like 3 hours of admin, which I do and do it well, it might take me 5 hours.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, it actually makes it worse because your workload actually gets bigger.
It's compounding because you're not.
Do you know what I
functioning
mean?
at the
So it's
same
like
level.
it's actually like, and I know you got the Whoop band on too, but like, you know, when you like look at that, I'm like, man, I need to get to sleep, and I'm like focused on it. I actually got one of those sleep masks.
Yeah.
Have you seen them, the Manta ones? And they're like, it's like the one that's like full blackout.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like that's been a game changer. And now you can put like music on, and you can put like meditation music on.
Yeah.
And I just set it like a timer for 15 minutes, and I've been like, I only had it for like a couple of weeks, but I put it on at night, and I'll wake up in the exact same position.
Really?
Yeah,
You're
like
good
literally,
one.
I don't even move. But it was quite scary. I had to get
They're like cushioned and everything.
well, yeah, guru cushion, like
Yeah.
full blackout. But I had what did happen was I started having, you know, when you wake up and it's like a Sunday and you're like, oh shit, I've got work today. But then you're like, oh, it's Sunday. But I was having that like every day, thinking that I had work on, and because I couldn't remember what day of the week it was, I was like fully freaking out. And I had to get this clock, and I was like looking them up, and they're actually called dementia clocks, and quite scary because it's like the ones that your grandparents have, and it looks like a picture photo frame, you know, kind of like whatever. And they go off 3 times a day, like 1 to remind you to have your pills, and 2 to remind you to have your water, and 2 to either go to the toilet. And I'm like, I don't need this clock, but I was like, I probably do need this clock, so because it tells you what day it is.
Yeah.
So I managed to suss this other one that actually has what day of the week it's on. So like I wake up, I can look at it and then remind myself.
Shit, you are on an absolute journey. I'm pleased
You
that you're going
are,
back to
eh?
the doctor on Friday, because it actually is one of those things. It's such a strange thing to navigate, because like what Mitty just said, there's not a real clear
Nah.
kind of pathway out of it, is there really? So
And you don't like, it's one of those things that you completely take for granted, you know, and it's not until something goes wrong that you're like makes you think. It's like that, you know, like a healthy man wants 1,000 things, an unhealthy man wants one thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like those, you go through those weird times in your life, whether it could be anything, and it just, sometimes it gives you a bit of, you know, perspective on things, and, you know, like you're just making improvements now, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, like that's great, you know, whereas, you know, like it's great I can now remember what day it is or what it is, and like you don't even think about that beforehand, do you?
But I think, and that's like the scariest thing though. And I think for me now, as like going forward, I wouldn't wish a concussion upon anyone. You know, and I played for years, like, and I had massive head knocks, but I never had was fully concussed, and that's probably like the scariest thing. And in 2023, I actually had 2 huge head knocks in one game. Like one, I got a actually big scar up on my forehead here, but I had a knee to the forehead, and like literally 2 minutes later, so they said they're going to fix me at half time, and then 2 minutes later, like as we were going into half time, I like popped my eye, and I like stood up and I was like, I just popped my eye, and he's like, you just concussed, mate. I just fixed you up. I said, you fix this, not this, you know, like, and then
What do you mean popped your eye?
I had an elbow in the eye, but I had a knee to the forehead. So I was like, I had 2 head knocks in like a minute, but I had no concussion. But then I like had an elbow at training, and that's turned to be like the worst thing that ever happened. You know, like, and that's scary. And then like there's times when I'm like, I was out, like obviously being still involved with rugby, I'm like, I'd love to play. And then you see a massive hit going, I'm like, oh, I don't want to play.
Yeah, exactly. You can't underestimate as well, though, like that everything that goes on around a hit. You know what I mean? What's going on in your life prior, where your brain state's at. Like there's lots around. It's not just one hit and another hit on a different day. They're the same thing. There's so much. Like the brain is a very complex
100%.
thing. You know. And some people are more prone to more longer term damage than others, and you know the recovery protocols around it are still really unknown. But it's definitely it is the scariest injury.
100%.
Anything, I mean, neck obviously as well, but brain is like, it's one of those things. It's just like
yeah.
What would you be out of 10 now? Sorry, if 10 out of 10 was sort of like where you were beforehand, how do you feel now?
I'd question myself, to be honest. I'd probably say like a 6 or a 7, eh? Like I wouldn't say I'm 100%. But I also, and you guys would know, but like your brain actually tries to like play it off. You know, so like if people come up to me now, and like you can almost cheat the system. Like people like try and talk to me, and I'm like, I don't even know this person's name, but I'll like somehow be able to get their name out of them without me asking them. You know, but it's because you're like trying to like forcibly work around it. But then people are like, oh, what do you get up to on the weekend? And I'll like just reply like, I'm busy, but actually I have no idea because I can't remember. And that's why I'm like, I don't even realise I'm saying that, but that's my brain, like, because I actually couldn't tell you, which is actually scarier again.
Makes me think of our grandma, so she's 86, and she's got dementia, but it's incredibly hard to pick up on it.
Yeah.
Because she can just literally just like talk around heaps of stuff. Like she's really social, really chatty, and then it's not until you kind of like scratch a tiny bit deeper that you're like, hold on, she thinks that she's back on the coast and we're at it's like it's so amazing how the brain's survival. And it's almost like guarding of stuff is constantly in action. But yeah, it is such a scary part of the body to have any sort of issue. So.
I wish you all the best for the end of that.
Yeah, we'll be right. We'll be right.
What about the business of business? Like, you talked about a little bit at the start, actually. You talked about how, like, you'd be passionate about something. And there's a book called The E-Myth, and it's like, what it talks about is just because you're good at something, running a business, doing that thing is a completely different thing. Like, being a builder is a completely different job to running a building company. Being a baker is a different job to running a bakery. Like, coming in, often people can get caught in the trap, I think, of like, I'm really passionate about this. And you said at the start, like, trainers that like exercising themselves, whereas in finding it's a completely different skill set. Like, how have you found that transition? You're nodding, Tim, you sort of felt the same thing. Like, how have you found that transition over the years for you, sort of moving, understanding the business of business?
Well, I think, like, and from me, like, probably this, like, the hardest thing was the gym was never meant to be a thing. Like, it was never meant to be a business. And, like, if I, like, think about that, like, back to when we first began, it was, like, training my mates or, like, whatever it may be and, like, doing stuff for fun. It was never about making money or, like, having systems in place to make money. And that, like, probably was the biggest, like, learning. But the thing is, it's, like, it wasn't like we're going to start, like, obviously different with what you guys do, but, like, it wasn't like I was buying into a franchise and it's like, hey, this is how you're going to run a business or some guidelines around it. It was kind of like, you can do whatever you want. But I'm like, how does this work? And then, like, things that I've learned, like, I used to use my own personal phone and used to use Facebook. Obviously, Facebook was massive and all of that stuff. But now, like, the first thing I'd be like to anyone, I'd be like, get a work phone because you need to have the boundaries in place. And we used to have, like, I used to have an A4 spreadsheet and, like, a clear file and I used to take it in the car. And if people would text me to, like, book in a class, I'd, like, write down, like, Timmy, Matt, Soph, Friday, 6 a.m. And then, when the class is 4, I'd cross it off of, like, whatever and all of this stuff. And then, like, going into stuff about, like, learning about money and accounting and all of that kind of stuff. It was all, like, pretty scary, and then you think you're going well, and next thing you start getting hit with, like, all the taxes or, like, whatever it may be, like, all your stuff to do with your building and your OPEX and, like, stuff starts coming and you're like, shit, I don't know about this. Like, what's this? And you're like, what was that? And then that was, like, now I think, like, I've learned so much about, even, like, leasing, doing commercial lease to all of that as we've gone. And now we have, like, way better systems in place with, like, our staff and, like, payroll systems and, like, everything's pretty easy. But at the start it used to be like, send me your hours and we'll process that. And then, you're trying to, like, do, like, KiwiSaver and all of that stuff. But now it's all kind of like we've got these systems in place that it works and it works really well.
Yeah.
But, like, things can be so easy now, but you've also got to be open to, like, seeing what else is out there. Because once you have something that works well, you're just going to keep doing it, right? And it's like, you're probably like you guys, you're getting hit up all the time by different companies about different booking systems and, like, but you're like, actually, it might sound great, but to actually make change for, like, not only myself, but for our staff members, for, like, franchises or whatever, franchisees, it's like creating change for people is actually really, really difficult, eh?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more around that because my take on, like, running a business isn't for everyone. That's a starting point. Like, it's not for everyone. It's whatever you're thinking running a business is, it's different, regardless of what you're thinking. Because my weeks change every single week, and I guarantee your weeks change every single week as well. But I think the way that you've gone about it is the right way. It's like you've focused on the customer experience and the customer product first, and then you'll figure everything out post that. You'll figure out systems, you'll figure out how to do everything. But I think that's the right way. It's like, how can I create something valuable for someone? Yeah. And if I can, in my mind, that's like the product that you've created. If you can create a really valuable product, and then you care about building a system to support that product, is sort of the way it goes. Like, I think I don't see that a lot in business. If I'm honest, I see they're not as focused on what they're actually trying to create for the customer. Yeah. It's more about. That's more something different, Yeah.
Well, it's the back end, right? The back end is what you see as the business owner, and the front end is what the customer sees. And I think it can be easy to try and focus on implementing or improving the back end rather than the front end. But I think you're right. Your clear focus from day one's always been
or on outcomes. I want to make
Yeah.
$600,000 a year. Or I'm trying to buy a house, or I'm trying to, I want to pay myself a big salary, or I want to have free time. I want to like be wherever I want to be. So thinking about what they want rather than actually what creats that.
But I think the thing like with me though, like in all seriousness, like if I wanted to earn more money, I honestly could have just stayed on building. And when it would have been in 2019, and like my old work colleagues hit me up to go and do some work over in like Western Australia, and I was like, this could be it, but then I was like, actually, I can't do that now because like I've just planted all these seeds with what I'm trying to achieve, and like I don't want to like lose that. But then now I love what I do every single day, so like I just like disregard the money side of it because I'm so happy waking up and going to my work and doing what I love, and surrounding myself with like great people. So I'm like, I'd rather be so happy in what I do.
Yeah, I get it.
There's so many different ways to be paid, isn't there?
100%. And I'm like, I could earn massive money working away, and they were like prepared to fly me from here to a place called Esperance, which is like bottom, like west of Australia. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It looks like the Maldives. It's like white sand. It also gets really cold because it blows off, from down south, but they get the warm, like breezes from like the Western Africa and that, or Africa. But I'm like, I'd have to make more sacrifices to go over there and be away, and I just done all that. Like the time when I spent away, and from like 2014 to like 2016, like I missed so many like friends' weddings and like all of this kind of carry on, like big milestone events. And I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that again, like because I'd rather be here and like be happy with what I do.
Yeah,
But like back then, like if you think like we're almost on $5,000 a week on wages, working away for like 4 weeks at a time. You come home with like 20 grand in the bank, that's massive money.
Yeah.
And then you go 6 weeks and come home with 30 grand in the bank. It's like, oh wait, let's keep me going. And
then you start a business, and then everyone wants OPEX here and tax here, and you're like, gosh, shit, that's what I get left with.
And we used to sell our concession cards for $100. I was buy 8 passes and get 2 for free.
Yeah.
And like you're doing that and you're like, oh, cool. I was earning like massive money a few weeks ago, and like, now look what I'm up to. But
that is definitely, I think we've spoken about this previously as well, as like business owners, there almost needs to be more like support groups where they can actually get together, because it is so much harder than what people anticipate, but it can also be so much more rewarding if they're, focusing on the right things. But yeah, I think that is the biggest misconception. I know like Guy Foster talks about accidental business owners, and there actually is something like beautiful about that, because you've kind of stumbled into it in a way that it's based in something that you really care about and enjoy, as opposed to it being like, here's a business and then you've got to love it. Yeah, you do. Your blood, sweat and tears is almost knitted into it, isn't it? But yeah, it's an interesting roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and where you've got to now is a really beautiful position. Like what you just said before about, having opportunity to make more money, but realizing, I think you said like there's more than one way to get paid. Like getting to that position in life when you can articulate and say that out loud. Like I think lots of people crave that, but I don't know many people get it. Yeah. You can literally say, look, like I'm really happy. I love getting up and doing what I do, and I'm surrounded by great people, and I live and breathe this, but I love it. Like I don't think many people get that.
No. But I was like, I also, if I was to go back building, like I think about it some days and I'm like, I don't know if I'd know myself. Like I'd love to be in that team environment, like in a building, crew and being around that. But like, I think if I put my phone down, at 5 o'clock at night and then I'm like, hey, I'm off till 7 tomorrow morning, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Like I'd be like, what do I do? I've got like so much energy. People are fucking sick of this guy, like, because I think I really enjoy like what I do now, but that high energy environment, like really, like Yeah,
it does it for you, and that's awesome. It's the perfect fit, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of the things when you get to this position that you're sort of in is the idea that you can sort of send the elevator back down. I like that analogy. And when we spoke the other day, you talked about you're doing quite a few talks with like schools and stuff now. Like, where'd that come from? What's driving it, and what are you noticing?
I don't know. I think though, for me, like when I was at school and like we were the same age, and I remember Timmy when you were at Boys High, in those last couple of years. Remember our schoolies trip? Yeah,
that's so good.
That's true for another day. All of my stuff at school, like I grew up and like I went to heaps of schools actually, where John Bateman, your granddad, he was my principal at Murchison Area School.
Good, crazy,
I went to like I said, I went to lots of schools, and then the school before I came to Christchurch was Rye Valley Area School. Yeah. So I was up there, and when I came down, I actually really struggled at school because it was such a, so overwhelming, like you guys would know, but going from like a small school to like so many people and learning so much, and then from me, like my journey has been really organic, but I probably had, like you remember what I was like when I was at school. I used to like, same height as I was when I was like 14, I think I told you, and I was buying everyone durries and bloody beer because I could get anywhere with your fake can-do card, remember that? Remember those? Like from me, all of my stuff when I probably learnt from going like the wrong way about things, and then when I was in like my year 12 and 13 year, I probably really like got given some opportunities, and lots of the guys, like the teachers at school and like the rector Justin Boyle, that they gave me a lot of opportunities to probably be like, hey, look, because I was NCA, I was a prefect in year 13 and I only had NCA level 1, but it was actually, I think, because I was actually so relatable to so many people that like I wasn't an academic at all, but it was actually, and I was like the community pillar prefect at St. Bede's, but it was actually because I was just great with other people. And when I left school, that kind of was like my eye-opening to be like, hey, this is actually a fresh start. Like I can actually, I want to like do something different. And, like I never played in the first 15 at school. And like, when we were at school, it was everyone's dream to play in the first 15. I think you were playing ITM first year out of school, right? Yeah. But I went straight from like the second 15 at Bede's to the like Div 1 at Sydenham. So that was like a massive step for me, but anyone else that was kind of in my age. And then like lots of that stuff became really relatable now. So when I go back, and I've done a lot of it with St. Bede's, talking to the students there, and I was at Shirley Boys, I took 2 groups on Friday, and I was done a lot with the year 12s and year 11s last week. But I think because I can talk about stuff being about like what happened when I was at school, it's actually really relatable. Like, people have parents that are split up when they were young, and, it's like it's not all rainbows and butterflies, like you learn from those experiences, and like lots of my stuff is actually relatable to those younger guys.
Yeah.
And and I said about it now, and I talk about some of the stuff that you'd always told me, like value what you do, but I talk about one of the guys, Joel Bouzade, said to me one day, he said, like, when I talked about opening a gym, I always say about this, he said to me, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And when he said that to me, it was just a conversation, and I got invited with Lululemon to a thing at the Summer Surf Club, and they had 10 guys in the fitness industry. It's right when I first began, actually. And I was like there as this, like the young guy that was just learning, and there was guys that were top Les Mills instructors, and they had other gyms around town, and, I got up and spoke and said, hey, I want to be like one of these guys here and own a gym one day. And then we sat down for lunch, and this is a few hours later, and this guy Joel came and said to me, he said, why aren't you doing what you want to do? And when he asked me that, I was just like, oh, it's just, I don't want to fail, or I'm scared. And he said, well, what are you scared of? And I was like, I'm just scared. And that was, in this like 5-minute window that he spoke to me. And he said, look, we've got half an hour for lunch. I'm going to go away, and I'm going to come back in 10 minutes. You're going to tell me what you're scared of. And he came back and sat next to me. And when he sat next to me, he said, like, what are you actually scared of? He's like, let's write it down. So he got out a piece of paper and a pen, and he said, you're actually scared of nothing. He's like, if you were to sign a lease to open up the HIIT Squad, he's like, if it doesn't work out, you can go back building. You could run your classes morning and night. You could rent it out throughout the day to like a mum's group or a school group. He's like, you could just sublet it all together and you just be a builder. He's like, you are actually scared of nothing right now, and there's nothing holding you back. He's like, it's all in your head. And like my family had always said to me, like, stay building because you can earn great money. And I knew I could earn great money. But like, I was like, this guy is I don't even know him. And he's come in and he's just like trying to push me off the edge of the plank to be like, do it. And like literally within a week, we signed on the lease on the building we're in now, because that just took that like leap of faith, but an external voice. Because, and I talk about with these kids now, like the students at like Shirley Boys and St. Bede's and that your parents don't want to see you fail. So they're like trying to protect you in a way that's like relative to you. And I always kind of sign off. I'm like, I'm going to upset so many parents now, because they're going to go home and the parents will be like, go to uni. They're like, no, I don't want to go to uni.
Yeah.
But I think though, like, if one kid takes something away from that, like, there's actually not much that can go wrong, but we're always in self-protect mode. And there's like that saying, it's like a scientifically proven that you have 70 to 80,000 thoughts per day. Like that's like literally what it is. But you have 80% of the same as yesterday, and then like 80% of the negative. So you're always thinking about the worst outcome, but you need to like flip that mindset. And I think that's the biggest thing that like coming to what we do. And when I did the year 12s at the start of the year with Shirley Boys, and a year 12, I hung around for some questions after, and this kid came up to me and he's like, hey, look, I just want to talk to you and ask a couple of questions. And he's like, I've been offered a cricket scholarship next year to go overseas. And he's like, but my parents want me to go to uni. And I was like, well, look, you probably need to work out the pros and cons. But I was like, I think it'd be great for you to take this cricket opportunity while it's there. And you need to probably then tell your parents about how great it could be if you do this year's experience away with this cricket trip and then scholarship and then come back and then do your uni. But if you do your uni now and this like cricket scholarships in the background, you're going to attend uni so half-assed because you're not going to be guns blazing. But I don't think we hear enough from external voices.
Yeah.
Because it's petrifying to be brave, isn't it?
It is.
And to sort of go and walk the road less walked, I suppose. And that's the biggest thing that I think about all the time is how many people look back on their life thinking about opportunities they didn't take because they were scared.
Yeah.
And it is and obviously we've got the kids at that age group where they're making decisions and choices on what they're doing in their future, and it is so hard as a parent not to remove or implant your fear on them.
I'm always like, now, if I ever get presented an opportunity, I'll never say no.
Yeah, same.
I'm always like, now is not the right time.
Yeah.
So it kind of like leaves that door open because it might come back, you know? And like, I think if you turn down an opportunity, you could be turning down something that's actually going to change your life.
Yeah.
And for me, I could have, and I always say that now, like I could have taken that and said, hey, I can't make it to that workshop that day. Like, and would I be sitting in this chair right now? Probably not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you just got to have open ears.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest key to any conversation.
I think everyone's life gets to that fork in the road, or probably lots of forks in the road. And if I'm hearing what you're saying properly, it's like sometimes you just need a bit of persuasion to take the other road, you know, and sometimes that voice can't be your own and it can't be your parents, and it's that random guy that comes and spoke to your class, or it's that random guy, that Lululemon thing you went to. And I think that, you know, understanding that those, you know, what's the worst that can happen, but also understanding that will happen. Like we do get these forks in the road, and you've got to make a decision sometimes, and
It's scary.
it's scary.
It's scary. And my dad gave me a bookmark when I was in my year 13 year, and it used to be like in my bathroom because my brother and I had a shared sleep out, and he moved out, and then like, well, anyway, long story, and this bookmark, and it had about like life's journey, and it said like, you know, we all may take the same destination in life, but some of us will take like that wrong turn along the way, and you'll still get to that destination, but you'll be wiser for the experience. And I actually like kind of signed it off as that with the Shirley boys last week, because I was like, we're all going to take these journeys, but we're all going the same way. And like, I think that's really important to know, like for the young guys, because some of them get so caught up in it. And like, you know, I'm not saying now, but like so many students go to uni and they rake up these massive student loans. Like how many guys do we all know here that went to uni and are now doing something completely different, like irrelevant to their degree?
I'm one of them,
So you know what I mean? But I think it's just like learning that stuff that we don't get taught that, you know?
The thing, I love this. I love this so much because like the way I think about this is like real happiness, genuine. Well, what are we shooting for here? We're all shooting to try and feel really fulfilled, pursuing something meaningful that we really enjoy. Like you're working in that space right now. Like one for yourself, but the impact that you're having on all the people around you. And like I don't think there's anything more beautiful than that. That you can say, I'm impacting so many people's lives in a positive way. You mentioned something earlier on around that you're changing people's lives, and I know many people that you've done that to, like personally. But also, you're pursuing that journey yourself with real happiness. And the thing I'm trying to get to in a long-winded way here, it's always on the other side of two things in my mind. It's on the other side of aligning your purpose aligning what you do with something that really aligns with who you are. You know, so like figuring out who you are is one really important step. Yeah. Like, because once again, people make decisions based on what they think they should be doing, or what other people are telling them, or what the society sort of says they should be doing. So really understanding who you are is step one. Yeah. And then step two is like, it's always on the other side of fear. Yeah. It's always on the other side of like, it's always like, there's always this barrier of like fear that stops people pursuing the thing that is really meaningful to them. Yeah. And so like addressing the fear head on is the only way to get through it. Yeah. You know, like you talked about, like you had to write down what you were scared of. Yeah. Like I do this thing called fear setting whenever there's a big decision. It's the same thing. It's a really similar process, but it's like getting really clear on my fears and what's the worst case scenario here. Yeah. How can I minimize those chances of that happening? As soon as you get it out of your head and you get it really clear. So like what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way, find something that aligns with who you are at a deep level. Yeah. And be prepared to push through fear, because what comes out the other end is two real beautiful things. You're helping people and you enjoy it. Yeah. You know, it's like couldn't get anything more valuable.
There's more than one way to skin a cat is the most important thing. Like I'm pro whatever anyone does post-school, but I think it is like there's benefits in every choice, whether it ends up being the right one or the wrong one.
Oh,
yeah.
And if nothing else, from those wrong ones, you get great stories. That's always good.
Yeah.
But also the whole like exploring who you are, that looks to me like, what are your values? So like if people are explaining Matt Bateman's me, what do you hope they say?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like that probably is what you're going to get the most non-money pay out of, is that you're doing something that you feel validated truly in.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's like the most simple thing, especially with like young people, is that's a really simple exercise. If people are standing up at your 18th birthday and they're speaking about you, what 3 words will you hope to hear?
Yeah.
And normally someone can actually formulate that, and they might not want to tell people what that is, but then it's like, what does that look like in industry?
Yeah.
Like what is it that's going to really light you up, because you're validating what your internal values are. And it seems like such simple stuff, but you're right, we don't get taught it.
No.
And I'm obviously a big fan of university as well, because I think you develop like lots of critical thinking and assessing things. But at the same time, you're exactly right. There's a whole lot of people that have gone through and it hasn't been right for them, but they've felt like that's the only option.
Pressure.
So it is like, I think as parents, we can do a lot to actually encourage kids to explore that, like explore and like gap years, experiences, and going and labouring or working in hospo. They teach you so much about society and about yourself, like how you feel about it.
Yeah.
That's important stuff. That's awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah, I love
I
it.
think if you look back, like you couldn't have imagined the path we've all taken to get to where we are. Like if you look at your story, Matt, for example, like from school, rugby, building, Australia, Pacific, like all like you almost would be the most far-reach story, and that you could ever imagine, and we've all had ups and downs and bits and pieces over the journey, but like I don't know if it's karma or fate or God or whatever people call it, but I honestly believe that when you look back now and you think like all that shit I went through has kind of made me who I'm meant to be today. And at the time you wouldn't wish it on anyone, and you're actually annoyed that it's happened to you, but you look back and you recognise that like Steve Jobs had a quote that was like, trust the dots, and he said the dots never make sense when they're happening, but rough quote, but when you look back you realise that they've lined you up to exactly where you're meant to be. And it's like at the time when something happens, like you said, you talk about the challenges of your concussion, but you also said just before that it was one of the best things that happened to your business. Like at the time it makes no sense, right? But when you look back at life and the obstacles that you've overcome, you realise it's actually in overcoming those that have made you who you are, and it's like you needed that. And I think if you can see life like that, you look at challenges slightly differently. And I think the work you're doing with the kids and sharing your story and some of because people like you and listen to you. I think that's the other part, is like I could get up and say that to a group of 18-year-olds and they would just be looking at the butterfly flying outside, but you get up and you've got some mana and you've got some importance and you connect with people, and so people believe you. So I think I hope you're valuing the work that you're doing there, because it's important.
I think though you just need to be given those opportunities though. Like I think lots of those students, I said if one person takes something away from that, then I'll feel like I've kind of like made an impact, and it might not be. But then I actually got a message on Friday night from like one of the boys' mums and said, "Mum, this guy came in and talked at school today," and she's like, "I think you'll know him." And she like messaged me, and I thought that was like quite nice, because then I was like, it felt like straight away, someone had got something out of it. So, yeah, validating
like their thoughts and feelings in a different perspective at that age is so good. Yeah,
I love it.
What's the secret to your energy?
I don't know. Coffee of recent. No, I don't know. I just, I love being around people, like I said, and I try and know that when I go to work and trying to be as positive as I can, And I think that's probably the biggest thing for me, is like, trying to like feed off others. But I know that we said like positive energy is infectious, and I think if you can do that, and I know some days I'm too much, and I talked about me working on Monday, but like I worked the other Monday morning, and then one of the guys messaged one of the other trainers like, never get Matt to work on a Monday morning. It was Tim Hurst actually. Tim Hurst. Said Beto's too much energy for me, and like I think like that's but I try and be as positive as I can. I think around any situation, and that's probably how it kind of like how I am really.
And an eye mask.
An eye mask.
And
a dementia clock. But it's pretty exciting. Like some of that stuff I had with the like concussion and all that stuff, and we talked about it. Like it's actually quite like not funny, but like I think about it, I'm like, that makes my life exciting. You know, because people will like say something to you. I'm like, did I? Did I? Really? What day of the week is? Oh my God, I just got up and got dressed for work, but it's a Sunday. You know? Like, I'm like, that's pretty exciting. You know, like,
I love it.
yeah.
It's the silver lining.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh mate, well, it's a treat. We've all been in your orbit for a while, and it's a real treat. And I know, you know, like I think one of the things we talked about this last week at our franchise owner conference that I think as Kiwis often we don't give compliments enough, and we're bad at receiving compliments. I went away this year with a group of Americans, and they give compliments, so they're like, "Oh, your hair looks great," and you know, like, oh, just random things. And then as Kiwis, we're all just like, "Oh, no," like, but like if you give a compliment to American, they're like, "Thank you." It does look good, doesn't it? You know, like, and I just think, man, you deserve a lot of praise for the work you've done. I know it doesn't feel like work to you, which is probably why it feels a little bit uncomfortable. But you know, I know, you know, I've seen what you did from 10 years ago, you know, and from the mum that's texted you about the son last week, I know there'll be a million of those other stories. So like, hope you're proud of what you've done and you're doing, and I hope you keep going as well.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to come down. I said, obviously, and grateful for you guys. I think we obviously started similar time with the between the gym and you, all of us really. And I think pretty exciting to see like everyone's journey as we've gone on. So yeah, grateful for the opportunity to come down and talk to you. And
love it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the O Studio podcast. If you liked it, please click the follow button wherever you're listening, and jump on social media and follow O Studio Global too. If you could do that, that would mean the world to us. Our purpose at O Studio is to make holistic wellness as accepted, as understood, and as practiced as physical fitness. And to achieve this, we're building premium wellness hubs around New Zealand where communities come together to do things like sauna, ice bath, yoga, Pilates, meditation, flotation therapy, massage, recovery, and so much more, all in beautiful, normal environments with everyday people. If you want to join us on this journey, come and visit us at a location near you. Visit ostudio.co.nz for all the details. Own the moment.